you were also involved in some rescue mission, humanitarian missions.
Yes.
You were in Aceh
Yes.
during the tsunami.
Mm.
And now we have almost 80 SCDF firefighters in Myanmar after the earthquake. Could you share with us your experience in Aceh then?
Yeah.
What was it like being in a rescue mission?
Yeah. I remember that was some 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think last year, December, it was commemorated the 20th anniversary. It was a very surreal, feeling watching the documentaries that were done by CNA. And I remember the day when the news broke. It was just hard to imagine, hard to believe that something like that happened, of some destruction of such massive scale. And I volunteered to be deployed because my squadron was we were doing search and rescue, and I've done several missions, search and rescue missions before, so I have some experience, but never something like this scale of a humanitarian disaster relief operations. So I raised my hand. I was actually based in the headquarters at that time. I said, I want to come back to join the squadron and go out there to help the team, because my squadron was actually split to take care of two operation theaters. One is in Aceh and one was in Thailand. So I was deployed to Aceh and I was there for 2 weeks. And when we flew along the coast, our mission was to fly, because we were based on the Navy's LST, the tankers, and our mission was to fly to Aceh Airport, daily basis, run missions, pick up the supplies, the medical supplies, food supplies, and fly to the various villages that still had survivors, land helicopter and give them the water and medical supplies. And I remember one day we even sent in a satellite dish, or not satellite dish, but a telecoms dish, because there was no communications.
Right.
So we managed to send in one, and the technicians went to set it up. And after that, people got signal on their mobile phones. So these were the missions that we did, and there were still many aftershocks during that 2 weeks that we were there. In fact, there was one day when we were in the aircraft in the morning about to take off, and then there was this huge aftershock, and we were all shaking, in the whole aircraft was vibrating. And when we were sometimes in between the missions, resting in the ship on the tankers, and there were huge waves that really sent everything rock and roll inside there. So I remember that time. It was very uncertain. Every day was different, and we just basically received the orders and the missions, and then we were doing our delivery trips. And what struck me most was to see, the entire coastline. Everything was destroyed. It was just sense of death in that.
Was it
place.
hard to see that, death and destruction?
Yeah, it was. I mean, as I speak now, I think that the images are still very, very clear and very in my head, and just very sad, very sad. But there were a few structures that were still standing. A couple of mosques were still standing. And we saw some young children still there. So those are very sad moments, and I think this is something that no one wants things like that to happen. So everybody came together, worked really hard. The SAF sent Navy, Army, Air Force troops on ground, worked closely with the Indonesians counterparts, some other forces from various countries. And I think at the end of the day, the very beautiful part was how everybody just work so closely together, regardless of their background and who they are, and just want to help the people who are in difficulties. So it was very good to see the CNA documentary when they talk about how certain families have actually overcome the challenges after 20 years and they rebuilt their life. So I thought that was very nice to know.
Right. I don't think it's normal for any human being to experience what, all the death and destruction. How do you deal with such things, when maybe when you're back? I'm sure there is a lot of emotions for you, having to be on the ground and seeing, death so close by every day. How do you manage it coming back home?
It took a bit of time to sort of decompress. So I think probably about 1-2 months. But by and large, I think because of I mentioned earlier on resilience, that helped me. And support from friends, families, members, that's also very important. So in general, I think I still managed to cope quite well. And of course, our team from the squadron, our teammates, our fellow colleagues who went together, there's a support group as well. So that helped a lot to get through, what some people call post-traumatic syndrome, PTSD. So for me, it wasn't that bad actually. I think for some of the troops who had to go on ground to collect the bodies or to clean up some of the areas, that was much more difficult.
I would think that the rescue mission from the SCDF to Myanmar now, they very on the ground,
Very much. I always respect very much the SCDF folks.
Yeah, and I think it is also particularly a tough time because of Hari Raya. I think more than half of them were Malay colleagues.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wonder, it must be quite tough because it's almost like a life situation also, right? Because there's tremors and all these things. And then you're going to deal with that. And then you have to focus on your mission. Yeah, I wonder for any kind of your experience that kind of, I guess, is similar to that, where it's almost life and you have to still continue with that thing, which I don't think is clearly not a comfortable situation to be in. Yeah.
Is you have to really be very focused on what you're there for, and you have to trust that we have the full support for SCDF, the whole SCDF team behind them, the whole country, that we are very proud and very grateful for our SCDF heroes who always represent Singapore at the front line and help out in this humanitarian mission. This is not the first one. They have done so many. Yeah. So I really wish them that they keep themselves well, be safe, and also be able to handle the stress. I think the stress is real, and because you're racing against time to find the survivors, and the ground conditions could be still unstable.
Right.
So it's not easy, and of course the physical strain on them, the hard work, long hours being on ground. So our SCDF fighters, please take care. We're all behind you, and thank you for doing this very difficult work.
Yeah. I mean, spoke about stress. I wonder, what's the a daily life for you back in Aceh 20 over years ago? What is your day in the life like? What's your hours look like? I can imagine it's like a non-stop action kind of thing.
I won't say it's non-stop because for flying, we typically do two long missions, one in the daytime and in the morning and one in the afternoon. And then we do get rotated between the different pilots, different crewmen, because safety at the end of the day is still number one, still very important. So, but when we fly out there, it's really long hours. I remember because when we had to fly from the ship to Aceh airport, it's about an hour's flight. And then when we reached there, it's chaotic on the ground because there were so many different groups, different forces from different countries, and different groups of people were trying to send in the logistics item. And then there was this fuel truck that was going around to give fuel, gas, aviation gas to the different aircraft. And in fact, sometimes we have to just sit there and wait for that fuel truck to come and refuel before we could fly back. And there was one night one afternoon, didn't catch the fuel truck in time. We had to stay back in the Aceh airport overnight there.
Right.
Yeah, and we slept in the aircraft. Yeah.
Must be quite an experience.
It's quite an experience. Yeah. The next morning I woke up. I remember I was sleeping in the cockpit, and then I got woken up because it was shaking. It was a aftershock. So yeah, it was quite a unforgettable experience, I'll say.
Right.